Welcome to the Brand Building Information Session. Today we're very lucky to be talking to Lee Schissler of CarillionUSA.com. And Lee is the Managing Director of Carillion USA, which, as a matter of interest, Carillion rhymes with million, and is also, it's a fighter in the Star Wars action series. So I'll let you take it away. Lee, I'd just like to begin by saying thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Sure, Terry. Glad to do it.
Maybe you can start off by telling us what is Carillion USA and where did the name come from?
Oh, well, actually, Carillion was, it means four bells, or the bell tower. A carillon, that's you see at churches or on college campuses, and the four bells represent the four P's of the marketing mix. So that was the origin of the name. I have some teenagers that I found out in recent years that follow Star Wars that told me that it is a large ship on Star Wars called a Carillion starship. So I didn't know that at the time, but I guess that puts us in a different league.
That's true. One company name, many meanings.
Exactly.
So what's your background, Lee? Where did you come from?
Well, I was born at a very early age, and my mother was with me when it happened. No, actually, I was. My background's in packaged goods marketing. I did a master's degree at Northwestern University in Chicago, and spent some time in New York in packaged goods, working on national brands for a large international agency. So my branding roots go way back to the early days in Chicago and New York. What happened through the years is branding has gone through a lot of changes. In fact, the first agency I worked at was Ted Bates Worldwide, where Rosser Reeves and the whole issue of the USP was originated. And so those were kind of the roots that I grew up in the business. Through the years, I've evolved into service sector marketing, and of course around the mid-'90s when the Internet came on board, marketing and integration of branding in both online and offline marketing became a key focus. So that's a little bit of my background through Carillion and through working in the advertising and the marketing business through the years.
Excellent. So how long are we looking at? You say way back.
Well, this is my career in marketing is an 18-year career. My years in consulting have been for the last really 9 to 10 years, working for various clients all the way from billion-dollar international companies looking for brand studies for the metrics behind branding, brand extension strategy, and so on, all the way down to medium-sized and even small entrepreneurial businesses looking to distinguish themselves from all of the clutter that's in the marketplace today that we're all inundated with.
Right. Now, you mentioned something else there just as we were speaking. You mentioned a business USP. What's that?
It's unique selling proposition, and that's kind of what is closely integrated with branding. For me, it's hard to separate branding from your unique selling proposition. What makes you different from competitors, what distinguishes you from them. And that, of course, then is closely tied to your positioning line that identifies and clarifies and articulates your brand message to your target market.
Okay, so you have a brand message, and then your USP communicates that brand message.
Exactly. It's like your unique selling proposition is your DNA that really defines what your business exists for and who you exist to serve. It's hard to have a business without having a market to serve. And how you position yourself to that market should all be tethered back to your unique selling proposition that makes you different and how you are positioned relative to competitors.
Okay, so would it be something like a slogan?
Slogan is a good term to use. In fact, branding is oftentimes confused with a logo. However, branding is a bit more complex and can be a bit more cerebral. There's many books on the market that address branding and discuss the subtleties of that discipline. It does involve a logo, but sometimes the branding extends beyond that. It can be the branding that's reflected in your philosophy, the way your people are uniformed, the way your fleet is arrayed, the way your signage is displayed. It's part of how you do business, can become part of your brand image.
Okay. So what size, kind of stepping back a little bit, what size of a business do you have?
We do primarily consulting with a wide variety of companies. If you're referring to revenue for the company, let's just say we are a very comfortable six-figure firm. I work alone in the consultations that I do, although when there's needs for specialists, whether it's graphic artists or database specialists for our business development clients, or folks to cut code for websites, I always call on experts and align them with me on projects.
All right. So then are you working mostly online or offline?
That's a great question. Today it's so convenient to be able to work online, and for me what that has meant is much less time on airplanes. We can now conduct business after a face-to-face meeting. We can then do a great deal of our work online. We can communicate, whether it's through email or FTPing large files, or even with FedEx, but augmenting that with an online business model works really quite well. In fact, most of my clients are not local. They are either on the West Coast, East Coast, or in Europe.
Right. So then you actually, how does the system work? You contact a client, then you fly out and meet them face-to-face, and the rest of the work is done online then?
Right. Some clients I've actually never met. For example, I have a client that's based in San Francisco that's in professional services. And he and I had exchanged emails, and he said, I'd like to retain you to help me not just in branding my practice, but positioning it and helping me do business development with a certain segment of the market.
Okay. Can you walk me through that process then? That would be a good example of how your business actually works. We have this particular account came from a referral from another existing client. The individual knew that I would be willing to work with smaller entrepreneurial types that were launching their own consulting or their own business. And so his desire was both for bricks and mortar accounts, but also to be able to have an online presence. And so he contacted me. I responded with email. He identified what exactly he was looking for. And then once we determined that he would be a good fit for my client portfolio and that I'd be a good fit for his expertise needs that he was looking for, then we developed an agreement and began to do the work both with weekly conference calls and coaching sessions on developing his business. And then I took upon work for his branding business behind the scenes here locally with some of my suppliers, and we started working on that component. Okay.
And then periodically we'll send him, after our weekly conference calls, updates on his project. His components and his media mix involve direct mail. It'll involve some online marketing, as well as some personal marketing where he'll be expected to go out and speak and deliver, and we'll, again, coach and help him on that aspect of business development as well.
Okay, so it's really a full business package that you're giving to him.
Right. And when I like these opportunities like that because in cases where we feel there is a good fit and high potential for return, we'll do a reduced fee but a percentage of revenue. So oftentimes for those listening that do any type of consulting, it's always an attractive offer because it really puts your expertise on the line. If you can deliver results, then you should be able to share in the profits that are gained.
So how do you know from the point of being able to get some of the profits that he's actually enjoying, how do you know how much of a revenue increase he's actually experienced?
Well, you just trust people.
Okay.
Now, actually, there's a few checks and balances. Clearly, I wouldn't accept someone as a client if I didn't feel there was, the fundamental integrity there to have a good business relationship. I think that's one of the most important things is defining the clients that you agree to work with. The second thing is on incremental revenue or increases in revenue, you need a benchmark. And so we agree that there will be IRS returns submitted. So there has to be a trust on the client's part to commit to me in a contract form to give tax records that I can verify changes in income.
Okay, fantastic. So if we take a look then just at the branding, I know you've got a lot of experience in the entire business development area, but if we focus just on branding, what kind of activities are involved in branding a business?
It all depends on the size of the business. And let me just give you some ranges, and then you and I can determine where we want to dig in.
Okay.
Earlier in my career, I worked with large multinational companies that had branding, and their big concern was on the metrics, equating or dollarizing the value of the brand, and also how it stacked up against competitors. Mm-hmm. So I spent a great deal of my earlier career in large branding projects in research, doing market research to find a benchmark of awareness for a brand. And then the folks that we did the studies with, also these customer groups, what their buying propensity was with our brand versus competitors. And so there really, as much as there are some that throw branding out the door as a bunch of hocus pocus, there are some measurable elements to branding that are very powerful, and it creates an asset for companies that have invested in branding. The problem is that branding is very expensive, as both in the development and the sustaining of a quality brand. So in the larger or the macro sense, branding is used by large companies for good reason, because it can be measured. There are metrics that can be used in evaluating its effectiveness in positioning your product. Not only that, but helping distinguish your product from other competitors and using it as an icon of value of what it stands for, what that product represents. We've all heard the story about going by a McDonald's and when you want a hamburger, why folks are more inclined to go to a McDonald's, those familiar arches, instead of Joe's Grease Burger Shack. There is a certain quality and value that it stands for and cleanliness that you can count on that represents their product. And so those arches are more than just a logo. It represents a philosophy of business, a quality of product.
So how do you go about measuring something like that, though?
Typically, again, this is when there are large budgets involved. Large companies will go out and they will do consumer marketing surveys, or if it's business to business, they'll get a research firm to do both key person interviews or quantitative studies to measure the awareness of the brand, unaided awareness, as well as aided awareness relative to competitors. And also to delve in both through qualitative and quantitative research what this brand stands for in the mind of a sample of consumers. So that's part of the work behind the scenes. There's also work on developing a brand that's strategically aligned with the company's mission, its products, and its services. And so for a designer to undertake a project like this, it's critical that these designers are trained and understand the importance of strategy and reflecting that strategy in a design for a brand or a branding system for a company.
Okay. So there's quite a lot involved in the actual branding when you're working on a large scale. What if it's someone like your company or my company that we're just a little one-man shop type thing? Is there any point in really branding ourselves?
That's an excellent question, and there are two schools of thought. There are those that believe that branding is absolutely essential because we are so over-communicated. I think I read recently that we receive over 3,685 branding impressions each day.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think that's probably low.
Wow.
Chances are it's much higher if you add on the online branding exposure we receive, as well as what we see in other media, whether it's outdoor, print, or broadcast. So there is that school of thought that branding is critical to differentiate your product or service from someone else. On the other end of the continuum, there are respected marketers, the Dan Kennedys of the world, that think that no small business has the budget to brand themselves, that it's not really achievable or worth fiddling with, that copy drives it, that benefits drive a small business. I respect both positions, and I probably fall somewhere in the middle because small businesses still need to be able to differentiate themselves. They still need to be able to encapsulate their service benefits in some type of mark or some type of brand. So our challenge is how can we do that affordably for small businesses?
Exactly.
And that's where we come in. I think that's what makes our services unique. And when I do consultation, whether it's a small or a medium-sized business, the challenge is how can we help them do it with some research, limited research, so there's a rationale for their brand, and so their brand is in context with other competitors.
And how do you go about doing that with a very small budget?
It really depends. Sometimes we are relegated to secondary research, not primary research. In other words, we go and find interesting category research. So really, branding a small business is, I think, an important step. I don't think it should become something you become consumed with and spend inordinate amounts of your time, working on, because you're not going to be able to do it like the big boys, but you should be able to do it in a way that gives you something to distinguish your business from the competition in that segment.
So what kind of activities should I be doing? If we take a look, for example, at the business professional now, and I want to say, okay, I want to get my site out there and I want to brand my site. What should I do first? If you can take me on a step-by-step process, what do I do first and second, et cetera?
Of course, do some online research. There's a tremendous amount of information out there on branding. If you get Ad Age, an issue of that, there's usually articles on branding, lots of books at Amazon on branding. But for a small business, go back to your business plan. And if you haven't written one, even a 1, 2, 3-page business plan helps you define, who you are, what is your market that you intend to serve, and what makes you different than competitors that would give people a reason to buy from you. Using that information, you can formulate a rationale so that you have a basis to build a brand. And a brand is manifested in graphic elements, but also the name that you choose for your business, the symbol that goes with that name, and a positioning line that helps articulate that name and that symbol you want to represent your business. So in a nutshell, what you want to be able to do is to have this brand have a rationale so it means something, it stands for something, and that it is the symbol that you use, the name of your company and what it represents, and your positioning line, which helps extend and articulate what your brand is and your mission. All those things, if you can come up with that combination, you can then help differentiate yourself from competition and give consumers visual shorthand to find you and recognize you and understand what you stand for. Because we're so over-communicated and we have, 3,600 and some daily brand impressions, by having this brand for your business and having people understand what you stand for and what you're selling, it provides them a visual and sometimes an auditory shorthand. Logos are not always graphic logos. There are sound logos that people use in their marketing, usually larger companies. Online is no exception. You can have both graphic and auditory branding for your site.
Can you give me an example of auditory branding or sound?
Auditory branding is basically a jingle that's used repeatedly, or a sound clip that's used to identify a brand. For example, McDonald's, I used that earlier. We love to see you smile, and I'm not a singer.
Yeah.
But there is music, and you don't even have to see it. If you hear it on the radio or you hear a few bars of it, you understand what that represents, and it brings to mind the visual images. Conversely, you can see something graphically and remember auditory cues that you've received from that same product and service, and that then affects you emotionally and can help influence you to buy or to favor that product. So smart marketers, both for large companies and small ones that serve a niche, are astute enough to use as many of the senses in their brand as possible. One of the things that makes them very successful is when they're consistent in applying those images. That's why companies spend a great deal for brand standards, both on graphic and auditory standards, online standards, so that branding is consistently applied in all media. That way, when consumers see it, there's always that consistent message, that consistent quality that's carried out. That's done for a very important reason, because that affects how people buy and the cues they get mentally, the feelings they get about your product or your service, and hopefully motivates them to want to do business with you.
Okay, now from a small business perspective, I've got a website, and I have a banner and basically my logo that's consistent through everything that I do, and a slogan that says "Listen, Learn, Profit." Am I branded now?
I've not spent any time with your site, Terry, but really the question to ask is that of your customers. Is you already have an economical way to research if you've been collecting their email names and some information, which, by the way, if you have a website and don't do that, you're missing a huge opportunity. You just go back to the folks that receive your message and build your own little survey and ask them what that means to them. Ask them if they recognize you. Oftentimes you'll find that the branding may be too generic, or it looks like all the others, and they really confuse you or your product or your message with one of a dozen other competitors. So the best way to find out if you're having an impact, if they're recognizing it, is ask them.
Okay, and then should I be, with my branding, should I be as specific as possible or as general as possible?
I think your branding should be as specific as possible, both branding in the name that you use for your company, in the logo or the icon that you're using to represent your business, and in your positioning line. The more detail, the better, although there is an argument in good branding for less is best, or the message can be very cogent. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but every word counts in a brand name or in a positioning line.
Okay, then how does it actually filter down to my bottom line? It seems to me that it would be a little bit difficult for me to differentiate whether I'm making an impact because I've sent out an email that really worked well, that was written well, or is it the branding that's actually bringing people back to the site and making the sales? How would I differentiate the two?
In the case of a small business, I think it would be very difficult to argue the brand is what's driving them, because most of the time, particularly in online, it's the offer. What is the offer, and what is the quality of your product or your service that you're selling? That's really what drives a response. The copy that you write, how it's positioned, and that's where, when I said I was in the middle, that's where Dan Kennedy and that whole school of thought is on target, because the offer does drive the response. Where you run into a situation is where you're competing and there's a great deal of clutter in various niche markets or general markets, and you don't stand out. That's when you have an argument, to have a brand that people recognize and understand what you stand for. At least they know what you're selling. Your brand can't be so abstract they don't know what you stand for. So specificity is good in it if it defines who you are and what you're selling. Now, we all know, we've seen the AOL brand. We know what the Amazon A and the smiley face looks like. There are several online brands that are easy to recognize, both those that are purely in cyberspace and those that have bricks and mortar, whether it's Walmart or Coke or McDonald's. A small business will never have that type of unaided awareness or that prominent brand recognition that you will have from national advertisers. Several reasons. One, it's not necessary because typically we're serving niches that we carve out. We're not after the mass markets. Next, we don't have the multimedia budgets that drive that brand into the brains of consumers like Walmart or Sears or other national brands. We don't have the online budgets to buy the banners or the infrastructure that Amazon has or that eBay has in driving a message out. But what we can do is serve our defined market, know who our competitors are, and give our customers and our prospects some visual cues to know who we are and what we stand for with our modest branding efforts.